The email came at 6:12 a.m. Subject line, immediate compliance required, unauthorized utility installation. I read it twice before the coffee even hit. Unauthorized. My $120,000 off-grid solar system wasn't some backyard science project. It powered my house, my detached workshop, and fed excess energy back through a legal net metering agreement with the county. Permits signed. Inspections cleared. Final approval stamped 6 months ago. But Karen, our HOA president, had a different opinion. According to her, my solar grid violated community uniformity guidelines and was now classified as shared utility infrastructure benefiting neighboring properties. Therefore, under HOA authority, the board would be assuming operational control effective immediately. Assuming control of something I paid for. By 7 a.m., 2 pickup trucks were parked outside my inverter shed. 3 HOA board members stood there like they were repossessing a car. Karen wore a bright pink blazer. She always dressed like she was going to court, even when she was wrong. "You can't be here," I said calmly, stepping onto the gravel. She handed me a printed copy of the HOA bylaws, already highlighted. Section 3.4, she said confidently. Any infrastructure that impacts community utility access falls under association oversight. I didn't argue. Because I knew something she didn't. 6 months ago, when I installed the system, I had spent 3 nights reading the entire 78-page HOA covenant document. Every amendment. Every revision. And I had found something. Clause 7. Karen hadn't. By 9:30 a.m., they had physically locked my inverter control cabinet with an HOA-issued padlock. They claimed it was temporary stabilization. In reality, they were trying to establish authority through action. The problem? You can't legally seize private utility property in the state of Texas without written transfer or court order. And they had neither. My phone buzzed. It was my neighbor, Mike. "Dude," he said, "Karen just emailed the whole subdivision saying your solar system is now community-managed green infrastructure." Community-managed. My jaw tightened. That's when I understood the real plan. They weren't just trying to control it. They were trying to reclassify it. If they could label my system as benefiting multiple properties, especially during last month's rolling brownouts, they could argue it served a communal purpose. Which meant HOA jurisdiction. It was bold. It was calculated. And it was completely wrong. I walked back inside and opened my contract binder. County permit, clean. Electrical inspection, passed. Utility interconnection agreement, approved. And then I flipped to the HOA acknowledgement form I made them sign before installation began. Most homeowners never request written HOA acknowledgement beyond approval. I did. Because buried deep in the covenants was a quiet sentence under Clause 7, independent utility structures. It stated, "Any privately funded energy system, not physically integrated into shared grid infrastructure, shall remain sole property of the homeowner and outside association governance." 7 lines. 7 critical lines. My system wasn't integrated into shared grid infrastructure. It was connected through a regulated net metering agreement, meaning power flowed outward only under utility supervision, not HOA control. They had zero authority. But here's what made it dangerous. If I reacted emotionally, they could fine me daily for non-compliance and bury me in procedural delays. So I stayed calm. At 1 p.m., I received another notice. Daily fine, $500. Reason, failure to surrender operational access. They were escalating fast. That meant Karen believed she was legally covered. Which meant she had not read Clause 7 carefully, or worse, she assumed I hadn't. That night, the neighborhood Facebook group exploded. Some neighbors supported shared green access. Others asked how my private system suddenly became communal property. Karen responded to every comment with legal language. Confident. Assertive. Certain. She made one mistake. She posted a screenshot of Section 3.4. She never posted Clause 7. Because Clause 7 destroyed her argument. The next morning, I called an energy attorney in Austin who specialized in property and HOA disputes. I didn't need a lawsuit. I needed pressure. He reviewed my documents and laughed softly. They locked your inverter? Yes. That's unlawful interference with private energy infrastructure. I didn't smile yet. Because Karen wasn't reckless. She was strategic. And strategic people double down before they admit they're wrong. At 3:45 p.m., a certified letter arrived. HOA Board Resolution, Temporary Administrative Custody of Solar Asset. Asset. Not system. They were reframing language intentionally. I drove straight to the county clerk's office and pulled the recorded HOA amendments filed over the past 5 years. That's when I saw it. 2 years ago, the HOA had attempted to modify language around renewable energy systems. The amendment failed by 3 votes. It was never adopted. Meaning Clause 7 remained intact. Karen either didn't know, or she was hoping no one else did. By sunset, she had one of the board members post a message saying a community solar benefit program was in discussion. They were trying to shift public opinion before the legal side caught up. That's when I decided. No more waiting. No emotional arguments. No neighborhood drama. I sent one email. Subject line. Formal notice of bylaw violation, Clause 7. Attached. Original HOA covenant document. Highlighted Clause 7. County permit approval. Interconnection agreement. Photos of HOA installed padlock. And I CC'd every homeowner in the subdivision. At 8:17 p.m., Karen read it. At 8:42 p.m., she replied. We will review the documentation. Not confident anymore. Just controlled. But she still didn't unlock the system. The power company truck arrived before the HOA meeting did. That wasn't an accident. After reviewing my documents, my attorney made one recommendation. File a utility interference report. When someone restricts access to a permitted residential energy system tied to a net metering agreement, it crosses into regulatory territory, not just HOA politics. The report triggered a field verification visit. Which meant Karen's padlock wasn't just symbolic anymore. It was evidence. By 10 a.m., a utility inspector stood in front of my inverter cabinet. Did you authorize this lock? He asked. No. He photographed everything. Karen showed up 20 minutes later. Pink blazer again. Composed. Controlled. This is an internal association matter, she said. The inspector didn't even look at her. This equipment is registered under a private residential energy permit, he replied. Any restriction of access must come from the property owner or court order. Silence. She tried pivoting. We're evaluating community access implications. He turned slowly. That's not your jurisdiction. 3 words. Not your jurisdiction. That was the moment her confidence cracked. But she still wasn't done. At the emergency HOA meeting that evening, she presented a revised narrative. She claimed the board had acted in the spirit of sustainability, and that the lock was temporary protection pending review. Then I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply projected Clause 7 onto the screen. Full text. Unedited. And I read it aloud. Then I displayed the failed amendment vote from 2 years ago. Date stamped. Recorded. Legally binding. You could feel the room shift. Board member number 2 leaned toward Karen and whispered something sharp. Board member number 3 avoided eye contact entirely. A homeowner raised her hand. So, you knew about this clause? Karen hesitated half a second too long. That half second ended her authority. Because HOA leadership doesn't survive on power. It survives on trust. And she had just gambled with it publicly. Then came the final blow. My attorney, who attended quietly in the back, stood up. If this matter proceeds further, we will pursue damages for unlawful utility interference and improper fine issuance. Additionally, personal liability may apply to board members who knowingly exceed governing authority. Personal liability. That changed everything. Board member number 2 immediately motioned to rescind the fine. Board member number 3 seconded it. The vote passed 4-1. Karen was the one vote against. The padlock was removed the next morning. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, a petition circulated among homeowners requesting a leadership review. Not because of solar panels. Because of overreach. 42 signatures in 3 days. By the following monthly meeting, Karen resigned as HOA president. Not fired. Not sued. Just politically finished. Clause 7 didn't destroy her career. It exposed her judgment. And in HOA politics, that's worse. Last month's electric bill. Negative balance. Because while she was trying to control my system, it was still producing. Still feeding power. Still legally mine. Sometimes the strongest move isn't fighting loud. It's reading carefully. She skipped 7 lines. And those 7 lines shut her down.